Good morning and welcome to the Daily Downbeat. In 2000, Eric Clapton and BB King teamed up to record Riding with the King, which was an album of collaboration work between the two. And if you love blues music, those two together are just phenomenal to listen to. But we're going to be looking at the title track on that album, Riding with the King. And there's a few verses in there that really kind of grab your attention. But keep in mind, when BB King is playing, he's always kind of got this narrative in his song that goes back and forth between him and other different variables. So, you know, with the name King, Riding with the King, there is a little bit of a play of riding with BB King, but there's also another message in there, and I'm pretty sure you might see it. So here are those lyrics. Get on a TWA to the promised land. Every woman, child, and man gets a Cadillac and a great big diamond ring. Don't you know you're riding with the King? He's on a mission of mercy to the new frontier. He's going to check us all on out of here. Up to that mansion on a hill where you can get your prescription filled. And so really, honestly, if you stop and think about Riding with the King, it also sort of has this narrative of what it's like to walk with God. And I think the Sermon on the Mount, Matthew 5, is really a good place to look at what that looks like and, you know, what those promises are, what those blessings are that God gives us. So we're going to look at Matthew 5, 1 through 20. And bear with me, it's a little long, but I think it all makes sense. One day, as he saw the crowds gathering, Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down. His disciples gathered around him, and he began to teach them. God blesses those who are poor and realize their need for him, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses those who mourn, for they will be comforted. God blesses those who are humble, for they will inherit the whole earth. God blesses those who hunger and thirst for justice, for they will be satisfied. God blesses those who are merciful, for they will be shown mercy. God blesses those whose hearts are pure, for they will see God. God blesses those who work for peace, for they will be called the children of God. God blesses those who are persecuted for doing right, for the kingdom of heaven is theirs. God blesses you when people mock you and persecute you and lie about you and say all sorts of evil things against you because you are my followers. Be happy about that. Be very glad, for a great reward awaits you in heaven, and remember the ancient prophets were persecuted in the same way. You are the salt of the earth, but what good is salt if it has lost its flavor? Can you make it salty again? It will be thrown out and trampled underfoot and worthless. You are the light of the world, like a city on a hilltop that cannot be hidden. No one lights a lamp and then puts it under a basket. Instead, a lamp is placed on a stand where it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your good deeds shine out for all to see, so that everyone will praise your heavenly Father. Don't misunderstand why I have come. I did not come to abolish the law of Moses or the writings of the prophets. No, I came to accomplish their purpose. I tell you the truth, until heaven and earth disappear, not even the smallest detail of God's law will disappear until its purpose is achieved. So, if you ignore the least commandment and teach others to do the same, you will be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But anyone who obeys God's law and teaches them will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven. So there's a lot to talk about there. Christ was teaching on the hill here, saying, look, everything that's come before me is not irrelevant. I have come to accomplish the things that were set in motion already. And so it kind of gets lost sometimes in between the Old Testament and New Testament. And when people were starting to study for the first time, you know, I've often been asked, where do we go? What do we do? How do we start? And a buddy of mine, Mr. Christopher Long, who was in a podcast a while back, made a very valid point. If you were just coming to this and really just now starting to seek and learn about, you know, what this is all about, Christ's words are the first place to go. The red words in most Bibles in the New Testament were the words of Christ, and that's really where you should maybe probably start. People probably have some different opinions on that. I'd love to hear what your opinions are. And by the way, go ahead and click that subscribe button. like us, make some comments. We'd love to start a conversation here. This isn't just about me babbling on and on. I'd love to start having some conversations about these posts that we do on a daily basis. So what we see here is what it looks like to actually walk with God and ride with the King, so to speak. There's a litany of blessings and promises that are made to us. But in turn, you'll see that we are called to specific areas. And the first two are to love God and love people, but you'll see warnings throughout the word as well. In verse 20, we see, "But I warn you, unless your righteousness is better than the righteousness of the teachers of religious law and the Pharisees, you will never enter the kingdom of heaven." And when you stop and think about that, where do we pull righteousness from? Is it ourselves? And no, it's not. It's from Christ. And so if we're looking to Christ for our righteousness, then we are righteous. If we're looking to ourselves and our acts and even just the word for righteousness, it's not there. It has to be Christ dwelling within us, bringing that out of us and setting that in motion. And so that's just a little bit to think about today. This song is great. Riding with the King is a great album. BB King and Eric Clapton, both men of faith, and are not afraid to spell out what they think in various songs. So give this song a listen if you haven't already. See what you think about it. Maybe you feel a little differently. But that's today's Daily Downbeat, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Thanks.